This is one of the most famous buildings in the world. The home of British democracy and the seat of an institution that dates back nearly 1,000 years. Not to mention, an architectural masterpiece. But it's also on the brink of disaster.
Spit it out! Come on!
Years of underfunding and delay have put this extraordinary building on the brink of ruin. Leaking roofs, broken heating, falling masonry, the very fabric of this building is falling apart. 200 years ago, the old Parliament burned to the ground, and there's every chance the same thing could happen again.
This place, without a doubt, is the most complex historic building in this country, with the greatest fire loading, occupied by the largest amount of people on a daily basis.
But the good news is there's a plan, one that would feature one of the most impressive renovations on the planet. The bad news is that any path forward is going to take years and cost billions. All at a time when Britain's finances are being stretched to breaking point. But whatever the cost, with one of the world's most iconic buildings at stake, can we really afford not to? This is the billion-pound race to save the Houses of Parliament.
We'll leave it there for now, and I hope there are no further points of order. There's an Arsenal match on television very soon.
So we're all familiar with the pictures of this place from what we see on TV, but I'm going to take you somewhere people don't get to see. So this is the basement of the Houses of Parliament, or the Palace of Westminster, to give it its proper name. In any building, behind the scenes, you'll always find an area that's full of services, pipework, cabling, the stuff that makes the building run. It's normally pretty orderly, but this is what it looks like here. This place has been dubbed the Submarine, and it's perhaps not hard to see why. There are more than 400 kilometres of cabling across this estate. To give you a feel for how much that is, if you were to lay it out in a straight line from London, it would stretch out beyond Paris. The services all around me include things like electrics, fibre optic cables, the cables for Wi-Fi systems, basically all sorts of stuff that didn't exist when the Palace of Westminster was first constructed. Now, this isn't the kind of site where you can easily get old systems out again, so they tend to just put new systems in and leave the old redundant systems in place. So what you've got surrounding me here is almost like 150 years worth of services sediment. It's all been fitted in and packed in, and steadily over time the corridor I'm in has been getting narrower. That approach of doing things ad hoc isn't just happening down here, it's kind of playing out across the estate, which makes maintenance a bit of a nightmare. Every week, £1.5 million is being spent on patching up the Palace of Westminster. But shockingly, that's still not enough. Even when spending at the current rate, the building is in a state of managed decline. One person who knows the palace's gremlins like the back of his hand is Design and Engineering Director Andy Piper. Andy, hi.
Morning, Fred.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
How you doing?
Good. Well, welcome to the basement of the Palace of Westminster.
Extraordinary.
Yes, so we're directly below central lobby at this point, so right underneath everything that would normally be happening on a busy Wednesday ahead of PMQs. Very different, obviously, down here in the basement.
Yeah.
And this is really the heart of the problem, actually, and what we need to solve.
It's obviously it looks like a completely different space, but in a way it's kind of no less ornate in that there's so much going on around you.
So Fred, this is one of the many electrical distribution boards that we've got, and I suppose this is a really good example of things that ideally we wouldn't have in a building. So here you can see this tray. So this tray is literally installed to catch any drop in water coming off the pipes above and direct it away from the electrical distribution. This is obviously not ideal, and it's done like this because to just move these pipes out of the way, which would be the ideal thing to do, it's just incredibly difficult, because you're hit with all the access problems.
Yeah.
Then you have to start stripping away all the pipes and wires above here. Here you can see a huge amount of cabling. Something that should be so simple just to move, it just unravels with a lot more work.
This is a short-term fix while a permanent solution is developed. But patching up the entire estate isn't quite as simple. Marie Goldman sits on the board of Restoration and Renewal, the organisation responsible for the upkeep of the palace. And as an MP, she's all too familiar with the building's quirks.
If you had to describe this building in a single word, Which word would you choose?
Bonkers. Of course, it's a beautiful building. It's one of the most iconic buildings in the entire world, and it's a huge privilege to be here. But my word, it's Harry Potter world, isn't it? I mean, I keep on expecting the staircases to move. There's so many different doors, you have no idea what's behind them. It's a real privilege to be able to work here, to be able to call this my workplace. But with that comes responsibilities as well, which is why I think the Restoration and Renewal programme R&R is so important, because we need to safeguard this for future generations.
This is one of the main steam pipe vaults that we've got.
Yeah.
Again, originally would have been part of that ventilation system, so all that would have originally been here back in the 1850s would have been just a single steam system. Now, obviously, you've got all the cabling for low voltage, high voltage, steam.
So these massive pipes here have got steam within them. That's the heating system for the building.
Yeah, if you come down here during winter, it's incredibly hot down here. You know, we've got steam alongside cooling. They end up fighting each other.
And then over time, as you described, this kind of like almost ecosystem of services has started to close in the tunnel space, right? You can see it all around us.
That's one of the biggest problems. We just simply run out of space.
I've said I love this place, it's beautiful. I'm not a traditionalist, I'm not a historian, but I don't know how anybody could look at this building and recognise its iconic place in the world and then not think about actually what would happen if we didn't look after it. If it started literally crumbling into the Thames, what would that say about Britain?
So what kind of calls come in?
I mean, this winter we lost heating to part of the palace, so you know, that was obviously a big thing. You know, lights going out, sewage leaks. I mean, we still got the original Victorian sewage ejector, so that dates to 1888. So these are the sort of things that we're sort of dealing, or at least the in-house maintenance team are dealing with on a daily basis. Yeah. And to be honest, they do a phenomenal job to keep it all running.
And that's not even the half of it. One of the most iconic aspects of the Palace of Westminster is its beautiful, intricate stonework. Now that's actually a form of limestone that was quarried up in Yorkshire, and it was chosen for its warm golden hue, but also because it's pretty soft and easy to carve. However, that means it has very little resistance to the elements or pollution, and now it's literally falling apart. This is about more than just keeping the building looking nice. This complex is busy. There are people moving around inside it every day, and chunks of stonework falling off the structure could be extremely dangerous. And that's not just a hypothetical. In the last 10 years, there have been 19 incidents of stonework falling off the Palace of Westminster. Oh, that's my new PT. Hi. Yeah, sorry guys, I know this is really rude, but this guy's really good. Okay, so how does that make sense? Okay, so if I put that there, got it. Now, I know my way around a gym, but a good mental workout is just as important. And my new PT, Koji, is an absolute game changer. Koji is basically a personal tutor that lives in your pocket, courtesy of our friends at Brilliant. And I really do mean tutor. Koji doesn't just hand you the answer, he asks guiding questions and nudges you in the right direction, letting you work things out for yourself. It's a bit like having a spotter at the gym. He's there if you need him, but you're still doing the heavy lifting. When your kids get stuck on a problem, Koji helps them find a solution for themselves instead of just handing over the answer. They just tell Koji where they're confused and he'll break it down step by step until it clicks, which is really important because with the prevalence of AI, figuring things out for yourself is becoming a bit of a lost art. But if I'm being honest, I'm now a little bit jealous of the kids that have Koji around to help them. When you're a kid, being unable to solve a problem can actually be incredibly demoralizing, and having Koji around to help would have been great. Brilliant's got tons of courses, from fractions to calculus to coding, with help from Koji available on pretty much all of them. Integral if you like the kind of projects that we cover, because a mega project deserves a mega brain. You can click the link below or scan the QR code on screen to get started with Brilliant's tutor for free. You can upgrade to Premium to unlock all courses, and right now the B1M viewers can save 20% on an annual subscription at brilliant.org/the B1M. Now, where were we? Keeping everything running is a daily battle, and maintenance crews are constantly working on reactive fixes. Each month, over 2,900 reactive maintenance jobs are carried out. That's an increase of 70% in the last few years.
But aside from leaking pipes and aging toilets, there's one thing that presents an existential risk to this building: fire. One person who understands that risk with painful clarity is Lord Rowe, the man who commanded the response to the Grenfell Tower fire and who went on to serve as Commissioner of the London Fire Brigade.
What kind of risk does this building pose? What's the kind of worst case scenario here?
Day to day now, this place, without a doubt, is the most complex historic building in this country, with the greatest fire loading, occupied by the largest amount of people on a daily basis. So if you wander into any of these rooms, you will see the volume of wood panelling. What you won't see is the aging rubber wiring that sits behind it. And obviously you've kind of an unbelievable volume of processes in here as well. You've got loads of commercial kitchens, and you've got continuous works on site in a very carefully managed way. I need to be clear about this. They manage the site extremely well.
It's important to stress that there's no imminent threat to the Palace of Westminster. The complex is kept safe by an extensive network of fire suppression systems, voice-activated alarms, and a team that's on call 24/7 to respond to any incidents. But the cost and complexity of maintaining that level of protection is constantly growing. And in the last 10 years, there have been 36 fire incidents, which shows you that while the risk of an outbreak is low, it's never zero. We saw obviously that horrific event at Notre Dame in 2019. Do you think if we don't do this, there's a risk that we could see a similar thing happen at the Palace of Westminster?
100%. You're looking at a man who used to be responsible for 20,000 listed buildings in London, who got a phone call one afternoon to say that the roof of Somerset House was alight, who sent people over to Paris to understand what had happened at Notre Dame and how they'd responded, and actually what you might want to do in a heritage building to keep things safe. This is about 5-6 times the size of Notre Dame. And the level of priceless kind of paintings, architectural features in here is off the scale. It's stuff you could never replace.
This place isn't actually as old as it looks, at least by British standards. The original Parliament that stood on this site was burned to the ground in 1834, and this structure was commissioned soon afterwards. It's extraordinary to think that the place that rose from the ashes of one catastrophic accident could be on the brink of the same thing happening again. How did that happen?
The Palace of Westminster, as we see it today, is largely the work of architect Charles Barry. Work began in 1840 and featured a mix of extravagant Gothic detailing and cutting-edge technology. At its base was a new innovation at the time, a huge 28,000 square metre concrete raft foundation up to 3 metres thick. Rising from that is the labyrinth complex of buildings that's recognised the world over. In the middle of the complex is Central Lobby, then leading off from that is the House of Commons and the House of Lords, giving the building its unofficial name, the Houses of Parliament. At the northern edge is the iconic Elizabeth Tower, home to Big Ben, and at the other end, the Victoria Tower, which was built to house Parliament's archives. In another innovation, both of these towers had vents at the top, allowing them to draw air through the building with the aid of a steam-powered fan in the basement, creating a clever form of natural ventilation. Elsewhere, the site contains over 1,100 rooms, housing offices, committee spaces, hospitality venues, more than a few bars, and at one point, even a rifle range. Much of the building's neo-Gothic ornamentation is the work of Augustus Pugin, an architect who is obsessed with medieval architecture, although some areas of this building are as old as they look. Cloister Court was built by Henry VIII in the 16th century, and Westminster Hall dates back to the year 1097. Both of these structures survived the 1834 fire and were incorporated into the new estate. If that all sounds a bit confusing, then that's kind of the point. The palace was constructed at a time of supreme national confidence, and so its design was rooted in the past and intended to symbolise the ancient and enduring nature of Britain and its institutions.
Ancient, yes. Enduring? Well, that's up for question. You see, things started to go wrong with the palace from the start. Those problems with the masonry go back quite a long way. Chunks of it have been falling off since 1920 and have to be replaced with stronger pieces of stone. The place where I'm currently standing is called Cloister Court, and it's one of the oldest parts of the entire site, dating from 1529. This structure here is believed to be where King Charles I's death warrant was signed. This courtyard actually survived the fire of 1834 and was restyled by Barry and Pugin. Then, during World War II, this area was bombed. These two sides of the courtyard were completely blown out. And they had to be reconstructed in 1950.
In fact, just after the Second World War was the closest the palace has ever come to a full refurbishment. The House of Commons was entirely rebuilt after being destroyed in an air raid. The House of Lords also received minor repairs after it was struck by a bomb that failed to explode. Below ground, some of the building's services were upgraded, including the heating system that's still in use today, while others, like the original Victorian sewage system, were left untouched. Crumbling masonry received sporadic attention over the next few decades, and the only other major restoration project was on the Elizabeth Tower, which completed in 2025. Without any major site-wide renovations, the palace suffered the fate of an ageing building in near constant heavy use, with ever-changing demands and little opportunity for sustained repair.
I guess one of the big challenges here is that you rarely get a clear run of the work, right?
Yeah, I mean, access is the problem. So lots of the works that have been going on are very much on the external, because you can get good access externally, but as soon as you come to do works internally, access, working around recess periods becomes really difficult, and there's always a sort of risk that Parliament might get recalled during a recess as well, so you've always got to be ready to get the chambers back up and running if they're needed, and all of that just really compresses the amount of work that you can do in any one period of time.
We're now in a worst-case scenario where we're trying to fix the basics while also being in a race against time to prevent the whole building from collapsing. Clearly, something has to be done, and the task of doing it has been given to Restoration and Renewal, the body set up to carry out the extraordinary programme of works that's going to see the Palace of Westminster go through a once-in-a-generation restoration.
The plan it came up with covers a huge range of projects, from basic repairs to modernisation schemes. By now, you know the state of this building's masonry. A palace-wide conservation effort is going to repair what can be saved and replace what can't. But it's not just the stonework that's being spruced up. The projects will also involve fixing leaking roofs and
repairing up to 3,800 windows.
Inside the building, life is set to improve dramatically, with new fresh air ventilation provided to around 80% of habitable rooms, as well as adding temperature control and air conditioning to key areas of the palace. To support the 1 million visitors that come here every year, a new visitor entrance is being constructed, as well as a purpose-built education centre underneath Central Lobby. Which means this could one day look like this. But the most dramatic transformation is going to be largely out of sight. All of the palace's existing services, the 1950s heating, the 1800s sewerage system, the hundreds of kilometres of cables, are all being stripped out and completely reinstalled to a modern, sane design. A new heating system will reduce the palace's energy consumption by 40%. Another legacy of that 1950s renovation is asbestos, which the palace is now riddled with. A major programme is going to see most of that removed. The fire systems are being rebuilt from scratch, and there'll be a new network that can seal off sections of the palace to stop flames and smoke from spreading. Now, this isn't just a lick of paint, nor is it about creating new indulgences for the MPs and lords who sit here and make decisions.
Well, about 85% of the palace construction cost is around replacement of all the surfaces. Asbestos is hugely associated with surfaces, so 1950s or before the 1950s we had no asbestos, did all the refurbishment in the 1950s, and that's when all the asbestos came in. And then just the access, you know, we need to pull the building apart a lot. There's a lot of conservation work involved.
That's all well and good, but this place is a hive of activity where some of the most important decisions in the country are made. So what about the running of Parliament itself? Well, that's where things start to get complicated. Right, now there's a lot to this, so you're going to have to keep up. In February 2026, a report was published with guidance on what needs to happen next. It asked for approval to start immediately on phase 1 of the project. That allows work to begin on developing 2 fully costed approaches, while enabling the most urgent and preliminary work to start elsewhere.
The phase is going to be capped at £3 billion and will last 7 years.
That takes us up to 2032, at which point work will begin on one of 2 approaches. The first is the full decant.
This involves emptying the entire Palace of Westminster and turning it into a construction site.
The Commons will move down the road to here, Richmond House, and the Lords are going to be moved to the Queen Elizabeth II Centre.
The whole job is going to take between 19 and 24 years and cost between 8.4 and 11.5 billion pounds.
Or there's option 2, enhanced maintenance and improvement plus.
Under this plan, the palace is going to be split up into 14 zones, with staff, MPs and lords moved out for shorter periods in phases. Day-to-day work is going to continue as much as possible, with around 30% of the palace moved out at any one time. But that approach is going to take longer and cost more money. They reckon it could run for between 38 and 61 years and cost between 11.8 and 18.7 billion pounds.
So, in other words, there's one option that's expensive but aims to get everything done as quickly and efficiently as possible, and another option that's multiple times more expensive and will take decades longer. So why is that even being considered? Well, although the overall cost will be significantly more, because it's spread over a longer period, the day-to-day pressure on the public purse will be less. But there's another, more enigmatic reason. This place is alive with symbolism and traditions, from the ceremonial dress to the placing of the mace, the state opening of Parliament, and the slamming of the door in Black Rod's face. These things may seem like nice little add-ons, but they're actually what gives this institution its legitimacy. And they're the kind of things that could disappear forever during the cold hard logic of an engineering programme. I think most people will understand exactly why we need to spend this money and are happy to spend this money. It's just the extent of money that's spent, I think, that sometimes gets called into question. When you look at it, the full decant feels like a no-brainer. Help our viewers understand, why is EMI Plus even on the table?
We have to understand the draw that this place has, and there are a lot of people who I speak to who are really reluctant to move out of here to allow the works to carry on in full decant because they're worried about never coming back. Now, they worry about never coming back from a personal point of view, but some people also worry about the institution never coming back here, not just them personally.
For Restoration and Renewal, whose duty it is to care for this place, there's no shortage of ambition. The question is whether that ambition can be matched by political willpower. Time really is of the essence. But even so, we've been here before.
Work on a plan to renovate the palace first began in 2012. In 2018, a similar range of options were presented to Parliament, which voted to commit to a full decant. But by 2022, when the full costs were presented, Parliament got cold feet and insisted on a reset of the project.
And here we are today. On the one hand, you could argue that this level of indecision is the very last thing a scheme like this needs, while on the other, that it's a completely reasonable level of scrutiny. Meanwhile, just down the road from Parliament in Downing Street, there's a Chancellor that's faced with all kinds of difficult decisions about how to fund the running of this country, from the NHS to schools to the defence services. And now, the restoration of a literal palace. Given Britain's recent track record when it comes to big mega projects and things often running over budget and taking much longer than planned, you can see why many people are asking, is this really necessary?
We mustn't kid ourselves. There is no do-nothing option. There is no no-cost option. The building is literally crumbling around us. Well over 80% of the works are works that need to be done regardless of whether, people talk about, we should move out and we should make this place a museum. Okay, but you still need to make it safe for that to happen.
I mean, that's the point many people miss, isn't it? They think, why on earth would we spend so much money on the Palace of Westminster when as a nation we could spend things on education, schools, other priorities. But the fact is this building is already costing us a lot of money and it's going to cost us more money if we don't fix it.
I think that's absolutely right. And the reality is this is, a symbol of our nation's history. I think if you ask your average citizen on the street, do you want Parliament there or do you want to knock it down? They'd want it here. And it's not ours. This is UK PLC, isn't it? It's the country's. It's as much a kid growing up on an estate as a parliamentarian in here. They own it.
On the 15th of April 2019, a fire broke out at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It took 400 firefighters nearly 3.5 hours to bring the blaze under control. Meanwhile, shocked onlookers suddenly had to reckon with the possibility of an ancient national symbol being razed to the ground.
This is awful. It's terribly sad. It's terrifying. The fire is uncontrollable. I've been here for 1 hour and there's nothing we can do.
I'm in the near 1,000-year-old Westminster Hall, a building that was completed more than 60 years before Notre Dame started construction work. I've had the privilege of travelling the world and seeing so many buildings, but few carry as much historic symbolism or weight as the building that I'm standing in right now. When you're living in Britain or in Europe, it's easy to take structures like this for granted. Their heritage is so ingrained in our culture and our society. But then something happens that reminds us just how fragile they really are. Securing the future of this space is going to be expensive. It's going to take political willpower and the support of the British people. Britain is a pretty demoralised country right now, I think that's fair to say. And it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to say this is going to cost too much money, we should just turn the site into a museum and be done with it. But even that would raise more challenges than it solves. This place was always designed to represent something more than just a home for day-to-day politics. It speaks to something grander, to the enduring nature of Britain and its democracy. For whatever happens next in the important debate about the future of this site, we mustn't forget what it would mean to lose a symbol like that. This video was sponsored by Brilliant. Don't forget you can scan the QR code on screen or click the link below to get started with Brilliant's tutor for free. You can upgrade to Premium to unlock all courses, and right now the B1M's viewers are getting 20% off an annual subscription over at brilliant.org/the B1M. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.